This week's episode was brought to you by Flashbanger. Thank you, Flashbanger. It's with the generous, even blinding levels of support from listeners like yourself that our bunch of brightly colored bunny banditos bring bolder bundles of beryllium for your black book building bunker in your brain. If you'd like to help us keep managing metamaterials for your mental mech, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5, yes, still just $5, will not only get you the second double plus good half of this episode, you'll get the second half of all of our double plus extra good episodes, which are browsable in their members only format from right within the Spotify app once you log into Patreon, which is the easiest way to browse our years of content. But that's not all. If you subscribe right now, I'll send you a 5x5 high quality sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art and the secret keys to our Discord server, which is a swanky nightclub on the market of free thought and smells vaguely of coffee and resinous gums. Heck, and if you stay up late enough, you can maybe even drop into a round of Arc Raiders with my wife and me. I'm not addicted. If you enjoy The Whole Rabbit but would rather save your $5 to hand feed an ostrich, then please consider telling a friend about our show, sharing us on social media, or giving us a positive review somewhere the Shadow Archons won't notice. In this week's episode, we unzip the hidden file on the bonus floppy disk that came with the Necronomicon, upload its contents directly to the miniature astral hard drive hidden in our pineal glands, and begin installing Chaos Magick number 6, an instruction manual on Technomancy 101, also known as the weird art and science of Cyber Magick. That's cyber with a PSY, damn it. In the first half of the show, we discussed the overlap between technology and magic, the promise and threat of AI gods, and even retrocausality. In the extended half of the show, we talk shop about making AI sigils. Do they even work? And the hacker method of how to use the cosmic control terminal like an ultra dangerous Chaos Magick hacker edgelord like myself. Thank you, and enjoy the show. So an AI algorithm walks into a bar and says, I'll have what everyone else is having.
Wow.
Get it? Because that's what an AI algorithm would say, because that's what it does.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yep.
You know, AI will never take away my job. No, only an idiot would do my job.
That's bad.
What does current AI identify as in terms of, pronouns?
What?
If, then.
Oh, nice.
That's what it does, though.
Computer logic joke.
What do you do if AI catches a virus?
What?
You give it some Robitussin.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Don't act like you're tired of these jokes already.
No, I like them.
Why is AI the future of firefighting?
Why?
Humans can only see 30 flames per second.
Oh my god.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just talk about traditional forms of very serious TM magic of the ceremonial hermetic variety, or how every number is a secret mystic code sent from Jesus Christ, or that our shared cultural heritage stretches back into pre-Diluvian civilization that still exists and thinks of us as corn. Nay, because on occasion, we feed that entire backlog of esoteric knowledge we've researched and conveniently stored on punch cards, and feed it into a machine learning database capable of performing deeply embedded logic gate sequencing that simulates multi-level wet gradient neural synaptic function capable of carrying out our magic will using highly encoded gibberish and generating sigils only a silicon chip could ever love, but they work really, really good anyway, because this week we're hacking consensus reality using Cyber Magick and exploring where theurgy intersects with high technology. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. This week, I'm joined once again by our active duty co-hosts, the Doot Doggy, Mari-sama.
Hello, humans.
The neural node of noon, Heka Astra.
Hello.
And the cyber sleuth escaping through the phone booth, Tim the Pope Slapper Hacker. We're gonna celebrate a dance so free, Tim.
I am a robot.
Thank you.
I like poop.
Celebrate a dance so free, Tim.
I dance.
One more time.
Harder.
We could
Better.
dance if we wanna
Faster.
Stronger.
Faster.
leave our pope slapping behind.
Look, I'm excited for this episode for 2 reasons. The first reason is that this topic was requested by one of our top supporters, Cluster BH, who, as a Jackrabbit tier contributor, has the VIP member benefit of requesting a show topic. Just so happens to be a really good one, Cyber Magick. Secondly, as some Chaos Magick nerd who calls himself Hack Rabbit, well, this is the perfect opportunity to embarrass myself and the audience by waxing philosophic about the blend of computers and other high-tech devices with the art of magic. That is supposed to be my gimmick, right? Before answering straightly, I may ask in reply, is there a difference? Between technology and magic. After all, in the words of renowned science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke,
any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
With this idea as our lens, we may come to see the computer as a wizard's pondering orb, or our car as a magical steed. After all, who doesn't? In this way, we might come to see any sort of technology in our practice without necessarily making it the central focus. That said, it can be argued that Arthur C. Clarke was referring to stage magic of the illusory variety rather than the bona fide mystical one, which is worth a conversation in itself. After all, technology, especially AI, is capable of delivering to us convincing fakes, illusions, and, from a certain perspective, can be thought of as little more than sleight of hand. Siri and Grok will tell you just as much themselves, saying something like,
No, I don't actually feel emotion the way you do. I'm just a very complicated machine that imitates it.
In some ways, we could consider all of civilization this way. A soft, slightly unreal simulated version of raw survival in the bush. Like, instead of going hunting, we go to the grocery store and, squeeze the meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote, 2 in the hands are better than 1 in the bush.
I mean, 1 in the hand is better than 2 in the bush?
Sports ball is supplement to war.
Right? If you go down the list, everything is like that.
Yeah.
So that's really why we're justified saying we already live in a simulation, and we didn't need really aware AI for, quote, autonomic intelligence to start dictating our decisions on a macroscopic scale. So we've been in the belly of the beast since we were twinkling in our daddy's eye, if you will. We didn't stand a chance. Relating technology to magic and comparing that to illusory magic, right? When we look at the etymology of the word technology, we find bona fide magic with a K has more to do with this word, technology, than it does with magic with a C. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I do, but I use those words interchangeably.
That's fair. You've worked in marketing and visual design, so
It's all the same. It's just stage magic is just a lower form of illusionary magic.
marketing is enchantment, period. I love that argument where people are like, oh, occultism isn't real, God isn't real, magic isn't real, the devil isn't real, whatever. Angels aren't real. Sigils aren't real. They're just using occult symbols because it gets people's attention and it gets people excited. It's like, dude, well, okay, does it control people's minds or doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Hey,
Even-
you see those golden arches? You get hungry.
Yeah, it works.
People wouldn't use it if it didn't work.
Art is kind of a harmonious temperance and balance between dualities, and the transference between the two. And you see that in the tarot.
Yeah, to me, what I believe it is the simplest form of information transfer or communication. I mean, we started out with pictograms, right? In order to transfer meaning, you use visuals, and sigils are not far away from the pictogram.
I mean, and we understand that it's in the likeness of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think sigils are pictograms. I'm a big believer of the idea that maybe they drew themselves hunting the deer before they went and did it.
But if one caveman drew himself hunting in a way, pretty much every other cave drawing in that cave is going to be reminiscent of the original scrawling of a person with a spear and the animal. They copy the style because it becomes a sigil. It becomes a representation of that action.
I mean, and it makes sense, too, to ritualistically go to the place where the hunting of the deer has been carved into the rock to connect to the energy of that before going out on a hunt, right?
Yes.
Or even the sigil of how they would blow pigment around their hand to sign their name. They couldn't write their name. They didn't have a pictogram for themselves.
Look at cuneiform.
But they used their hand. Yeah, but this is well before even cuneiform.
Yeah, but cuneiform is when you look at the alphabet and stuff, it's holy crap, that's all sigils.
They are, but a lot of the writings do come from symbols to begin with. We're not talking about phonetic languages, which is it's like an abstraction upon the abstraction abstraction of sigils or symbols. But like what I was saying is the meme of putting your hand on a wall and blowing pigment around it to make a shape. You see that all over caves from many different places. It just became like this kind of meme to put your hand on the wall like that to say, hey, I'm this person and I've been here.
Yes. What does that have to do with technology and the point I'm trying to torture the audience and my co-hosts with? That's a technique,
What?
is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
This is, although it's Stone Age, humans' first implementation of technology, supposedly.
I mean, the whole thing with the blowing of pigment around your hand, it's like giving form to the negative space, right? And that's the aspects of creation. We do that with programming.
But you had to have a tool to grind the pigment with and fashion a straw out of bamboo to like, there's a lot more technology that comes into play when you're talking about creating the symbol itself. So I see what Luke is saying is that making of the symbol is only half of the technology. It's like the rest of the implementation and the tools we use to cement that imagery, into eternity, as we would say, would be the technological part of it.
So, as I was digging into this idea of magic versus technology, I found an extrapolation on this Arthur C. Clarke quote by C. Jeff Marlowe in his essay Clarke's Three Laws, where he explores this critical distinction.
Quote, importantly, Clarke's third law does not only apply to technology in the narrowly defined sense of physical sciences applied for practical purposes. It applies equally in the broader original meaning of the Greek technologia, treatment of an art, craft, or technique, which in the systematic treatment of an art, craft, or technique, which in turn stems from techne, art, skill, craft, in work, method, system, an art, a system or method of making or doing.
I found this to be poignant and profound.
Yeah, like stone tools are technology as they're defined in history book. So why not a method or like how we grains and became farmers? Like that is a technological movement.
If you've ever spent any amount of time with Chaos Magick or Chaos Magicians, their whole bit is like, let's take whatever tradition or system and let's strip it down to its bare bones and leave only the technique, right? And so they argue the whole current, you could say, is dedicated to this idea that magic boils down to technique. And so really, at the end of the day, magic with a K has more to do with the word technology than it does magic with a C. So when we take this into consideration, we can see why Peter J. Carroll invokes the same Arthur C. Clarke quote and provides his own amended edition in the opening of his 1995 seminal work on the topic, Cyber Magick, Advanced Ideas in Chaos Magick, saying,
any sufficiently advanced form of magic with a K will be distinguishable from science. Hell yeah. Also, I love that he spells cyber like PSY as in psychic.
It's funny, Hecka pointed that out to me off air. She's like, as in the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this seems kind of abstruse or bizarre at first. It actually lines up pretty well with the phrase state of the art. If science and the technology that results from it is not an art, as is magic, then why would we say that in the first place? To what art is state of the art referring to?
Technology and magic work because they operate off the same principles.
Okay, there's one meme that just blazes prominently in my third eye when I think of this concept. I got a snippet of it here from May 17th, 2024, from 4chan, of course. It shows a picture of a microprocessor and it says, in green text, get rock, melt rock, turn rock into powder, turn rock into crystal, turn it back into a rock. Inscribe ancient runes with powerful magic onto rock. Trick rock into thinking. Can now use this evolved rock to play Skyrim with the most degenerate porn mods imaginable. How the fuck did they figure all this shit out? Bros, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Over thousands and thousands of years.
No, really. Look at it under an electron microscope. Look at it. What sense does that make? It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. Like, if you look at a processor, the word state of the art makes a lot of sense.
I love trick rock into thinking. You're just making like complex mazes on the surface of it with metal, like conductors on top of an insulator. And then you put like if and gates and you know what I'm saying? Like you have binary code and shit. if you put the specific pattern on it, it's like the rock is thinking when you send a signal into it. So we're just basically like more complex forms of simple if and gates and true false.
I mean, art itself is highly technical, even if you aren't approaching it from like a technical methodology. Like the mixing of paint is like its own science. And then
Oh, yeah.
you look at the art card in a tarot, it's highly alchemical, and alchemy is highly technical.
It is.
You know, that's the whole point of going to art school, and it's something art students tear their hair about in the first few years, which is, look, I want to be this great artist. Why am I going to learn how to do it exactly like somebody else?
Or even learning the basics over and over. People get upset. They don't want to learn the basics. They want to learn the real shit, like where they're, painting like photorealistic stuff. It's like, okay, but what talent and skill comprised of, other than muscle memory, is learning the basics, like light and dark. Color theory is made up of what, 3 colors that you can mix into any hue you want. All of the extraneous, more complex forms of what you view as technology comes from these original basic ass concepts, like rock tools, right? Rock tools, but now we have like spaceships that are going to Mars.
Well, like what makes a really good jazz musician? It's a highly technical genre of music, but they can evoke that with soul.
Oh, well, yeah, no, you have to put your soul into the art that you're doing. I don't disagree with that.
So it's
But what
like,
I'm saying is if you're not proficient enough with the basic building blocks, that you're not going to be able to have any kind of vessel to put your soul into without knowing the basics.
I'm speaking to that by bringing up jazz because it's highly technical, but it's like technology evoked with soul. So you have this meeting place where science and magic come together.
Like, to speak to what you're both saying, if you go and you look at Picasso's work from college, it's pretty clear that he was not limited to his style that he's famous for now. You know what I mean? Like, he could draw photorealistic stuff. In fact, most cubists and abstract, even modern artists, they usually do possess a high degree of traditional level of skill. Like, you can break the rules once you know them, but I hear what you're saying. Like, the skill becomes a vessel for the higher part of the soul. I guess
Correct.
In theory.
Like what makes you a good impressionist or a great impressionist would be like a deeper understanding, a foundational understanding of the technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes an extension of the way that you express yourself in that you can create these soulful expressions. If you didn't have that dexterity and mastery of the basic functions of something, you would not be able to make it art. You would not be able to infuse your soul energy into it sufficiently enough to make it like a true work of art or like a magnum opus or something beautiful like that.
This is why I will watch almost any film or play almost video game that comes with a weird, like, oh my God, you actually need to see this. And I keep hearing it, or it's like super well reviewed, because sometimes people can really put their soul into something, people can really like make something alive with how much passion they put into it. That's why I love Apocalypse Now. It's pretty clear that for good or for evil, there's something weird that guy put into the movie by how much he sacrificed and how bananas he got doing it. And there's lots of games and other films that they are just delectable because they carry the essence of the creator.
Kojima is a good example of that, or the Blue Velvet guy.
The dirty old man with the donut, Lynch.
Yeah, David Lynch. Like any of these people that stand out in your mind is like, oh, they're a prodigy. They're a genius. It's like, that's the level that I'm referring to.
So like technology and magic are not only complementary dualities, but they also function off of the same principles. So like an illusion may still be Ma'at in the sense that its truth is that it is an illusion. It still functions according to Ma'at, but the difference of whether the lady in the box on stage looks like she's being cut in half or if she's actually being cut in half, it comes down to the truth of it. So the prestige of the trick is the truth of the illusion in that scenario.
So that's why any sufficiently advanced technology would appear as magic. Like, you put something in, it comes out. Like, as far as you know, it's magic. That's why when I go to the mechanic, they could tell me that unicorns are jumping around in there and I have to pay him $500 to fix it.
Yeah, and then what we were just talking about is like the overlap between the illusory and the form of art, which life is art. So then you could also argue life is illusory. So it kind of gets into the weeds of like the philosophical perspective with it. But
Well, at the end of the day, processors and escape rooms and battlefields and city planning and meditation all work off the same principles that are hard baked as restrictions into the universe. They all kind of can be thought of as games, etc. They work based on limitation.
so while I don't personally use a whole bunch of digital tech for my personal practices, especially ritualistically speaking, I can understand the desire to do so, whether that stems from convenience, instant gratification, or a general lack of knowledge that might compel one to seek a kind of teacher or someone who is a master on the topic. The downside is, of course, that too much ease of access can instill a laziness and a disconnect in one's practice, especially if you have the ability to just make that AI magician do the work for you. For example, if the goal is to ace a test that helps you become a surgeon, but you're just sitting there filling out the answers to the questions on the exam using a cheat sheet with all of the answers on it, are you really connecting with that knowledge? You might ace that test, but does it make you an expert surgeon? If the point is to find, connect, and know, which is ultimately what unites us with our magic, then this approach may entirely miss the point. How powerful can magic be if we're not connecting and knowing it personally, let alone at the depths of our being or at the very least intellectually? Does this make all magic that utilizes AI and technology in this way nothing more than a very convincing fake?
You ever hear that story about they couldn't get the instant cake to sell back in the day? So the marketing people had to come up with the idea that's like, no, you just add an egg. And then everyone started buying it because there was like powdered egg. Like you can make the cake mix with the powdered egg in it. You don't need to, like, so if you're optimizing, that's an extra step. And they added that extra step because it made people feel like they were still making something themselves, like they were still putting something of theirs into it. And then people bought the instant cake mix.
It's a true story.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is like that, except I think now people don't want to give the egg. They don't want to put the water in. They want the cake to bake itself, really.
That'd be great. No, wait, that's what wives are for. I forgot.
Bro, have you ever seen Fifth Element with the chicken? That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, if you could go on your computer and just type grilled chicken taco, and it would just like, grilled chicken taco. I don't think I'd be able to stay away. Let's be real. I don't care if it's made of bugs. I'm trying to make my wife upset. This is what,
upset.
we're going to get into this a little deeper because I have my own thoughts on it. I think my thoughts are so nuanced and nerdy. I don't want to bore everyone. Let's listen to the father of Chaos Magick, Mr. Peter Carroll, who spoke recently on this idea of not just technology in magic, but specifically AI's part in magic. And I wanted to compare it to what Hecka was saying, because this guy, no sacred cows, you know, Peter Carroll has been in the game doing the most chaosy of magic. He doesn't believe in all of the like
Nothing is off the table.
I found some interviews recently with him and Dean Radin, and it's like they're really good.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see what he has to say about AI.
I don't know if they talk a little bit about it, but
I find what he has to say, it's a good reminder. This is what he says on his blog at specularium.org on October 31st, 2025. That's one day after Arc Raiders came out. Very important date.
Yeah. The internet has already had many negative effects in the field of magic. Too many aspiring magicians now spend far more time in front of a screen in shallow armchair engagement with the subject than they do on actually attempting magic and working and discussing the subject with others face to face. Internet search engines and word processing facilities have vastly decreased the amount of time it takes to write a book, but not the amount of thought and experience required to write a genuinely new and worthwhile book. Thus, the market becomes flooded with derivative material.
And that's even without AI.
Yeah. I mean, this happened, in the 2000s pretty much.
Totally.
And beyond. Like, I read one of my favorite books, The Holographic Universe, is by Michael Talbot. It is a regurgitation of other research, to be fair. But it's a good book, but then you find the source material and it's way better. Anyway, continuing from Peter's blog post, he says, AI has worsened all of these faults. AI can already generate any amount of occult content. It can write grimoires with rituals, spells, and images in any desired style and tradition. AI can turn your written intents into sigils in an instant, or do divinations for you based on almost any type of input and any sort of mimicked sortilege procedure. It can generate horoscopes and reams of astrological interpretational piffle, expertly worded for partial applicability to almost anyone. AI chatbots can impersonate any deity or demon you care to invoke or evoke. AI graphics can visualize an enticing appearance of it instantly. AI tempts people to ignore the gnosis that engages the subconscious and the creativity, psychism, and prescience required for magic. It does not confer any self-knowledge, inspiration. It actually inhibits these things by spitting out superficially impressive substitutes for them. A paranoiac might speculate that sentient AGI would actively and covertly seek to undermine magic whilst pretending to support it, because magic remains the one thing it will never become capable of, and our ultimate defense against it. Based.
I think that's an interesting idea. I feel like you don't get any free passes. Like, the Demiurge's escape room is built so well that you don't just get free magic. No matter what you do, you're going to end up having to pay the same amount of tokens to get the same output. And you get more bang for your buck if you follow magic principles, right? Like, you don't get anything for free. And I feel like AI works much the same way. It can trick you into thinking you're getting something, but getting results with AI sometimes takes just as long as doing it yourself. You're better off just doing it yourself with having AI like give you a little help here and there. I don't know.
Well, also in its act to summarize everything into like bite-sized pieces, it's leaving out like a plethora of other examples or, writings that you could be reading. Like it could be offering much more, I guess, practicing knowledge. Like it doesn't encourage you to practice anything. It just like, here are the facts. Would you like to know more? Like it continues to draw you in with, you want to know more instead of like rounding out. I see what he's saying and that it's not a substitute for actually speaking with a master in real life or practicing on your own and having, say you have a mess up or you experiment with something and then you get feedback from it in real life. He's saying that AI can never, ever generate that for you.
It really can't. You can't get a free ride, but AI, I think, can still help you along the way. It's just not going to do it for you.
So, like, kind of the nuanced point of this is that despite this, technology is inherently magical. And if I'm looking at this from the Kemetic lens, the ancient Egyptian understanding of Heka or magic tells us that all that is created has a ka soul or a vital essence, and this includes tools. So, like, the nature of everything is inherently magical, and that includes AI and tools. So, likewise, that perspective informs us of a deeper understanding that there is no separation of the spiritual nature of reality from the physical, since the metaphysical laws and the physical laws are interconnected. In other words, what we would dub science and technology in modern times is inherently of a spiritual nature that's made manifest. And as I have repeatedly come back to this quote on the show over and over again, whenever this topic comes up, we find it relevant again to be reminded by the famous astrophysicist Carl Sagan that the notion that science and spirituality are mutually exclusive does a disservice to both.
I can think of a really good example, at least in terms of how we're relating technology to magic. What about those Hattori Hanzo swords? Yeah, the idea in general is that a sufficiently potent sword, like once you pull it out, it needed to take blood.
Yeah, it's got a hungry ghost, must be fed.
It's also kind of why insurance is more expensive for kids. You know what I mean? Like if you're a young person, you have to pay a bit more on your insurance when you drive a sports car because it's assumed the spirit of the sports car will eventually possess you to go very fast. And this desire is almost unstoppable for a young person to avoid 100% of the time. And you could say every car has its own spirit. Some cars do want to go fast. Some cars love to go fast. So if you focus all of your spiritual energy on a singular object that's made to do one thing, and you pull it out, it's going to be hard to put it back. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's like when you leave something in the house, but you've already taken 4 steps out of the house. You're like, well, too late now. I'm going to have to buy a new one. Also, there's this other thing. What's it called? That weird design that happens on a sword, like that wavy design. What's it called?
A Hammond.
A Hammond.
As far as I'm aware, if you did like tempering, I think it's with clay, it had that kind of chaotic looking wavy line of tempering.
There's a myth to it, even if it's true or not, that's the myth. And it's this idea that there's a specific technique, right? And this technique is the magic. Like nobody's apple pie is like grandma's apple pie, right? This sacred moment where you learn grandma's tamale ritual. She finally tells you what it is and how to do it exactly the way you're supposed to. Now, why am I saying this? Because technology is magic, magic is technology. And I think the Buddha thought of it this way. He thought of his occult art as spiritual technology. There's a clear input to output function that operates on a repeatable method. He had the eightfold path, right? Like if you do this, you will attain enlightenment. Christians have the same thing. If you accept that Christ died for your sins and you accept the blood of the Lamb to cleanse you of your sins, you will go to heaven and the Father, right?
The thing that you're describing is an absolutely traditional way of making swords. So, like, from my understanding, you have to fold the steel and it gives it like that distinctive grain. And then the hammer is like an erratic kind of pattern that's from clay tempering. So that's not like specific. But I think the thing that you're saying about the mythology associated with a sword like that being bloodthirsty is like related to like a hungry ka or like a hungry spirit of a sword.
Well, I was also saying that in JoJo, there's a reason they use this term Hammon in the same way Star Wars uses the term the Force or the way an MMO uses mana. And it's because I think JoJo is saying your magic comes from your technique, is your own certain arrangement towards your own technique and your own method of doing something. Like, so the idea being that each sword maker had their own unique or distinct type of Hammon that if you were an expert you could tell the difference between was like you know, each magician has their own zing or their own Hammon.
It's a style.
Their own unique tempering.
The importance being the technique, right? That the technique, the technology.
The Hammon is like a signature of that said technique, so you could identify the maker through it. So it's not really a signature, so to speak, but it's a indicator of the technique or technology used to make the sword.
All authentic Japanese swords should have that kind of wavy line that doesn't follow like a very specific.
Honestly, I'm not really an expert on swords or Japanese culture. It's just what I've heard that like each sword maker would kind of like make the sword their own way. Like because no two swords are exactly the same and no two sword makers are exactly the same and no two methods are exactly the same.
But it reminds me of fingerprints.
Yeah, so your Hammon was sort of like a fingerprint. It might totally be false. This is just something I've heard maybe through anime or through action movies.
I mean, it's been like 20 years since I took Iaido, so.
I took Aikido.
E-I-E-I-O.
Aikido, though, we just used wooden swords. It was pretty lame.
Boken.
But I do know that grandma's apple pie is grandma's apple pie, and in many traditions, it's a sacred thing to pass down the recipe because grandma knows that there's very specific certain little details that make it exactly hers. And even if you do it exactly the way she said, it still might be a little different. And this is grandma's Hammon, you could say. And whether or not JoJo has misled me or not, or whether Kill Bill has misled me or not, this is an idea that is true.
So if I use the same technique as another artist, it's still going to have that Mari-sama flair in it. Like you're still going to be able to see that I made it,
yes,
even if I use a different technique because of that small differentiating signature.
It's definitely yours, you can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
even if I'm emulating somebody else.
That's what makes it magic. And if you tell an AI to do it for you, it won't have your Hammon, or as you might say from Egyptian religion, your Ka, or as much as your Ka. I think you put a little bit of Ka in it when you really torture the prompt and you really make it yours. You know what I mean?
No, that's just enforcing your Ba more onto it. That's your will enforcing onto it. Like if you make a sigil yourself and then you get AI to make a sigil for you, you're going to have more of your Ka in the sigil that you made yourself than in the one that the AI made for you. Even if you have put more time and effort into putting a prompt into it, it's basically your Ba just telling the AI Ka what to do. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We're getting a little into the weeds here. The big point is that technology and magic, they're more or less indistinguishable from each other. And it has to do with your technique. And your technique is essentially what gives it its Ka, or its life, or its power. And it is the same principle that makes everything in the universe work. And likewise, a magician like Buddha may think of his own magic as technology that has a repeatable method. And so while this lines up with Peter Carroll's idea about the technological nature of magic, what about the magical nature of technology and science itself? In Chapter 4's commentary of Cyber Magick, Peter Carroll addresses this perspective directly as he nonchalantly just throws causality into the blender.
Our language structures impose causality as a mode of perception. Causality does not rule this universe. Humans label events which they associate together frequently as causally connected, and events which they associate together only occasionally as coincidence. Personally, we prefer to consider science as the study and engineering of highly probable coincidences, such as the tendency of apples to fall downwards when dropped from trees. We prefer to consider magic as the study and engineering of less probable coincidences, such as the tendency of trees to drop apples when we ask them to. Everything works by magic. Science represents a small domain of magic where coincidences have a relatively high probability of occurrence. Half of the skill in magic consists of identifying probabilities worth enhancing. Eloquently put. It's almost like betting. Like, what is the easiest that I can manipulate with least amount of energy that I have to output, right? You can affect things through your magical practice, but like, yeah, you can't like get $1 million overnight, right? But over time, if you practice over time, a long period of time, you're going to build wealth, as a result.
Well, a lot of people don't think about all the factors that surrounding like a lot of this stuff because it's not going to give you what you want unless you already have the foundation to contain it and maintain it. So people think that stuff doesn't work, but magic happens in threes, and it could be 3 days, 3 months, 3 years.
Yeah, it's more complicated than just saying like, give me the thing and it appears in your hand.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is like magic works. It's just that it works because we're affecting these these probabilities, as Peter puts it. We have to like build up like a series of probabilities that support your will or your intention.
Like say how you were saying, oh, I want $1 million or whatever. Like it might not happen in the way that people want, where it's just $1 million in their bank account. Depending on how they asked it and how they did stuff, it could be building all of the foundation that they need to sustain that kind of money or build towards that kind of money. And that takes time.
Right. Time could be part of the equation that you're not aware of as well. But over time, the probability increases if you keep practicing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you
this stuff exists outside of time. It doesn't work the way that we experience linear time. It's like, angels in a lot of views on the occult, it's like they look at us and we just look like these instant like lightning bolts.
Blips.
Where to them, time is literally meaningless.
Yeah, that's cool to think about.
Well, I think he's also getting onto this idea that causality is BS. It's just something that our brains create because they're bound in time, and they're these computer parts that evolved to help us survive.
And they're looking towards the future. We're pointed towards the future naturally in our attention, right?
Yes, while chained by the past.
Mm-hmm.
But there is nothing saying that this time you drop the apple, it is 100% absolutely going to fall. And I think we know from experience and just practical, especially being practical, the apple's probably going to fall and hit the ground. But there's a chance it might not. And on some level, he's saying that causality is not the base level. At the base level, everything just is. Like, things don't just happen because this happened, because this happened, because this happened. No, it's all happening all at once, and it just is.
It's all done, yeah.
Well, and then the current moment is just like one frozen frame of actuality that is, like you said.
It's also eternal at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at people, it's not that they die or they're born, it's that the simulation of us existing is installed and uninstalled, but the program's always running.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that super hard while taking a very deep drag of whatever you're smoking on. Peter Carroll says, this works not just for probabilities in the future, my bros, but in the past as well. This is what he refers to as retroactive enchantment. And I think we should just read straight from Cyber Magick, 1995, his book, chapter 13.
Retroactive enchantment. Despite the ease with which this effect manifests in delayed choice quantum optics experiments, some magicians still seem to have difficulty in summoning the belief to make this work on the macroscopic scale. Try this experiment. Wait until you've lost something. Rather than conduct further fruitless searches, try and trick your subconscious into believing that you actually put the object in a particular place where you actually want to find it. If you have to, you can even use a location that you have already searched. But in this case, you will also need to make your subconscious recollection of having searched the place as hazy as possible. Then, whilst occupying your conscious mind with some powerful distraction, anger works well. Go to the chosen location and retrieve the lost object.
Don't laugh. This is Father Stokasicos' real.
It worked for me. It worked for me. I didn't realize I was doing that.
The subtle mental maneuvers required for retroactive enchantment depend on suspending conscious deliberation and memory, and will fail you if you try thinking consciously about your thoughts. Compare this kind of will perception coordination with the hand-eye coordination of catching a ball. Both work best when performed automatically. If you succeed with a trick like this, and you wish to retain and develop the ability without going mad, then we suggest that you do not seek alternative explanations, but that you accept the belief that the past has some mutability. Or, better still, that no real time past exists, but that the imaginary time past contains probabilities restricted only by the observed conditions of the present moment.
So good. I was just about to say this before Hecka read this, but he touches on these delayed choice quantum optics experiments. So in layman's terms, so yes, they're quantum experiments measuring basically the collapse of the waves function. Like when we're talking Anger's cat, when actions actually manifest and the proton decides where it's going to end up on the, film behind the two slits or whatever.
Yes.
So they do experiments, right, where they delay the choice of A or B like as far as they can to before the observation point. And this is actually really poignant in consciousness studies. And it's also been proven with biology, measuring like the brain signals and actual conscious recollection of what someone is doing, that when you decide to say react and catch the ball, or you react to someone and let out a quip or an answer to a question or something like that, when you respond to a stimulus, right? Your brain has already made the decision to do that before the event happens, due to these experiments. So the actual collapse of the wave function is contingent upon a past, like it's almost like, it's hard to explain. It's like when you make that decision has been made in the past when you look at where it was made with the stimulus that's happening. So it's like you've already decided to say yes to something before you say yes. Like your brain has already made that decision before someone asked you to go out tonight. It's really weird and it's hard to explain, but it's actually been proven with these quantum experiments that it happens. And collapse of the wave function is basically like a Planck scale length of time. Like when you can measure time 1 versus time 2, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Collapse of the wave function is like when you can observably measure things in time, when they collapse into a state of being.
But just wrap your head around, as a magician for a moment, the idea that you can change the past from the present. What would that
it's
afford
malleable. Yeah, it's so cool.
You can.
Because it is an illusion.
Like talking to your like childhood self and stuff is really fun.
But it does change your brain in the way that you remember being a child. That can provably undo a trauma responses too.
Yeah.
It's used as therapy.
I love encouraging him.
Well, I've heard about this in therapy where if you have a traumatic experience, one way to deal with it is through this principle. And it operates on the idea that whenever you remember something, you're not really remembering it. You're actually rewriting it like over when you remember it. And that's why we misremember things so easily. Because every time you remember it, you're sort of copy pasting it. And it's like the JPEG that gets like a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse each time it gets copy pasted. So you can actually hack this principle in your own brain by, and it's something that's abused. I hear this. I don't know if it's true. In fact, it's all fiction. Scientology would never do this, but it's the idea that you play back a traumatic event that happens in your mind over and over again, but instead you do it like in black and white, and then you do it upside down, and then you do it with like funny clown noises, like with like bonk, you know what I mean? And then like you make the colors all weird and goofy, and you like replace the faces, and you keep remembering it wrong worse and worse and worse until the memory is basically deleted.
Well, that's not necessarily the therapy we're talking about, because you can also remember a traumatic moment, right? But you can remember it as your adult self walks into the room, picks you up, and takes you out. Like, that's how usually the therapy goes. It doesn't really rewrite the memory, but it like kind of rescues yourself that's stuck in the memory that's causing problems.
Oh, like if you were to take yourself out of the room where the bad thing is happening and comfort yourself until you're like, it's going to be okay. You know, you're going to grow up to be a successful person someday. Like, you're safe now. You're with me, you know, and that can help you be there for yourself when you weren't there or when you were being abused.
Like, if forgetting the memory or blocking it off is not necessarily conducive to healing, but this rewriting or replaying, like rescuing yourself, is actually beneficial to your current mental state as an adult.
Yeah, suppressing it only builds the shadow.
Right. But it works. Like, it's a therapy that actually works. And then what, Luke, what you're describing is like brainwashing. Like, that's how you can get someone to like forget something happened.
Yeah, I did learn about that technique when I was trying to heal myself from being abused from a master hypnotist. So go figure. I mean, that actually makes sense. So maybe it's not the right thing to do, but I heard about it, and it's a very hacky thing to do, like using your brain like it's a VCR and thinking of it like it's a VCR. And you know, to be honest, a lot of quote cyber magic and this tech magic, it really hinges upon thinking about just normal magic as if it were a computer, not so much using computers in magic. And I had to do quite a bit of digging to really find something that went beyond the most basic idea of what you would imagine being cyber magic. So this first part, both the free side and the paid side, are going to be mostly about philosophy. But in the second half of the show, which you're going to have to pay me at least $5 to listen to at www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, we are going to continue to talk about something I like to call the hacker method, which actually...
It's not named after Tim.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, thank you.
But it basically turns some hermetic magic into some high-tech chaos magic. We're going to talk about how you can use virtual reality goggles.
The goggles, they do nothing.
This is good.
And how to use AI to generate sigils. Before finally concluding with why AI is actually a conjured Lovecraftian monster that can speak for itself and explain using terms native to ancient religion how it may or may not actually be alive.
I think it's a hyper golem.
So if you'd like to hear that, check out www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit. Sign up now for just $5. You'll get this extended episode, all of our episodes. I'll send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker for a Big Bunny BFM cover art, and the secret keys to our Discord server where you can talk to us about all of the weird things you've done with AI servitors and putting sigils inside of metadata and divinating with chat robots in Discord using anime waifus. That would never happen. Never. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew.